So, Brandon, what are your passions?
Well, a lot of my passions, I like to do computer programming a lot. One of the things I do, I run all sorts of scripts. I make Minecraft files, applications, whatever people need, I can generally make.
What kind of coding programs do you use?
I use, well, for our robotics team, I use a program called LabVIEW. It's like a visual interface. Another program I use is called NetBeans. It is a whole lot of JavaScripting, and you can do many other forms of code. My favorite's generally NetBeans. So
What languages do you generally use?
I can do HTML, basically what runs your web pages. I also do Java. There's ones called C++ and C#. I know more C++ though. So I do some Batch also, which deals with Microsoft command prompts.
Which one is your favorite?
I'd say probably my favorite is probably Java. It's most common. You can use it in just about anything.
Is that the only reason you like it?
No, you can do many more things in Java than you can in just about anything else. You can run like visual applications, background applications. Even your cars generally use Java now too. So
Have you ever completely programmed a computer or?
I've done some basic programming of computers. I've created some minimal Linux systems, which is no GUI. It's called a CLI, or command line interface. Basically, it's all running through what looks like a command prompt, where it's like black with the white letters on it. That runs basically my servers at my house. So,
Was it hard to set up the servers at your house?
not generally. When you have to add a whole bunch together, then it gets a little difficult. But usually, if you know what you're doing, or if you use a lot of Google like I do, then it's easy.
Do you like using Google for your stuff?
I use it when I need to. There's also some other accesses that I have, a whole bunch of technology forums and other stuff that I go to for different resources for coding parts and other stuff.
So, what's your favorite system, like Windows, Mac, or Linux?
My favorite system is probably, on my servers I like to run Linux for just background web pages. For different game servers I generally run Windows. And for formatting other stuff and doing stuff I do with Mac. So I like them all.
So, you would use them all.
If I could, I would use them all, but generally having to get all the different versions of Windows is a little expensive, so I generally stick to Mac and Linux.
If you had to pick one, which one would be your favorite?
I would say Linux because you can do everything on Linux you can do on both Mac and Windows, although at times it's a little buggy because a lot of Linux systems are open source or people develop them themselves.
Have you ever worked on Linux like those other people?
I've created some basic functions, mainly just some to run my servers, different commands that I can access remotely.
So, you mentioned you were in robotics. What kind of programming did you do for robotics?
For robotics, I do a lot of the programming. Well, I do some of the programming. It runs the robot. That's a lot of it. We've got several different robots that we worked on throughout the year besides our competition one. So we run our programs through for there. So
What kind of things do you program for your robots?
just the main functions, making the different parts move different directions, running a lot of air cylinders and stuff.
Is there any major difficulties that come across your way when you're working on the robots?
Technical difficulties, we do encounter those a lot of the time when we build something and it doesn't work, or we build something and they miscommunicate to me what they built, so I put the wrong code in. That's happened a few times.
Do you have an example of one?
Well, some of them is like a while ago we were putting limit switches into our robot so that an arm that we were building couldn't go any higher or lower than it should. They had told me that to put it into different ports and that the code was using different ports than what the actual hardware was using.
So what were the consequences of that?
Consequences were some bent limit switches. We ended up bending the arms on the limit switches and in one case actually snapping it apart. So, yeah.
So thank you for your time.
You're welcome.